Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is going to be the first time I've ever done a sort of direct follow-up to one of my Given Anime season watch list videos. In this particular case, talking about the spring 2018 anime season and my biggest disappointments coming out of this season. Now, when I originally posted my spring 2018 watch list, I hadn't actually gotten around to all of the series that I would eventually, tune into every week. And so there are certain shows that, even if you go back and watch that particular video, you won't know necessarily whether or not I was watching. And you can always go over and check out my anime list whenever they open that back up as of the time of this recording, all the problems they had over there. Or you can just ask me directly if I was watching a given series or not, and I'll let you know in the comments, as a reply. But this is the first time I'm ever doing a follow-up because of disappointments that I had, shows that let me down in one way or another, whether it was all told a bad experience watching a series, or it was kind of a give and take, or, as is one case, it was really down to the last couple of episodes of a series that just, it didn't feel as resounding or impactful or make as much of a mark as I had hoped and thought it was going to, that kind of thing. The sort of first honorary mention that I can talk about is a series that I actually covered, because typically, the series that I cover weekly are the ones that I enjoy the most and end up enjoying the most all the way up to the end and find the most resounding. But for the spring 2018 anime season, 3D Kanojo Real Girl was a thorough letdown in the end. It had some really great moments, and I talk about them in my weekly coverage of the series. By the time you get to the final sort of episode, because there's still a whole bunch more they have yet to adapt from the source material and everything like that, and the way they sort of restructured it and repositioned a lot of aspects of the story, there is no actual satisfying fruition, at least to my estimation. And so it was a thorough letdown of the series that I ended up, investing weekly discussions in. And it's the first time I've ever had that happen, where a series that I covered weekly was a thorough letdown, and I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of inexplicable. But the thing that really, sort of instigated this video was the anime series Nil Admirari no Tenbin, which I was really thoroughly enjoying. And I saved the last two episodes. I watched them back to back. And it's like they rushed through the ending, and then it got all kinds of hot mess convoluted in the last two episodes. The second to last episode was a thorough rush. It's like the people behind the series were making a beeline for the end zone, and they didn't care who got caught in the fallout. As far as the mysteries surrounding, in the series, these cursed tomes, these old-style Japanese handwritten novels, which contained within them this sort of evil energy. So anyone who was exposed to them, reading the thoughts and the emotions of the given author who was, spreading that evil into them, would then try to kill themselves or come to harm or something like that. And so the main character, the girl whose name I forget, she was initially shocked by the fact that her younger brother, who was a thorough fan of fiction, had tried to commit suicide after being influenced by such a tome, a cursed tome. And the shock of this gave her this supernatural sort of second sight where she could see the energies, the auras coming off of these tomes. And so she becomes involved with this sort of, special operations group that is investigating these books. They have been aware of them for a while. And so she, takes the employment with this little special operations group rather than, as we find out at the start of the series, succumbing to having to be betrothed to a more wealthy family to keep her family on the up and up. And the way it all ends, as I say, the second to last episode, it's in such a rush to get everything closed. But then the second to last episode ends up ending on a cliffhanger where we're introduced to oh, didn't you know this was the real villain all along kind of thing. A really convoluted shoehorning in of another character who's been around since the beginning, but oh, didn't you know, even though we were following all these other people, he's really the one who started it all. And after finally answering to him in the finale episode, they then end up trying to have their cake and eat it too by making it a very, sort of forced happy ending where the main girl goes back to her homestead and she's going to let down the guy she was, betrothed to. And lo and behold, oh, isn't it just cutesy cutesy? It turns out to be the boss she's been working with in that special operations group all along. He's known all along that they had an arranged marriage since childhood. He's never said anything about it, but isn't it hunky-dory as the day is long that it ends up being him? Here she's been working alongside him the entire series, and she didn't know this was the guy she was going to have to marry. And the thing about that is they never at all once throughout the entire course of the series touch upon whether or not she's going to be romantically involved with any of the guys. It kind of comes across as like a dating sim game turned anime where it's just the singular female. A couple other female characters do come in and out, but she's the main focus, and then all the rest of them are these cute anime guys. So it's kind of like, the impression I had from the get-go is, well, you're going through this story and you're spending some time with each of them, and then at the end you're going to pick which one you want as far as a husband goes, a husbandu, And so just because it's an anime, you don't ever get any estimation. You have them hitting on her, but you never get any estimation of her actually liking any of them. So it's kind of blindsiding when, the guy that she's been in this arranged marriage with all since childhood turns out to be the guy she's been working with, and probably the one she's been the friendliest with, I guess, kind of, sort of, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Doesn't make any sense. And it was just, it's like, the trapdoor came out from under me with those last two episodes, and I'm sad to say that because I was so, just intrigued by the series, by the mystery, being somebody who's an aspiring writer, talking about when you read a book, you get a sense of where the author's coming from and their emotions and things they experienced and such like that. Only this show took it to a literal, horrific edge. But then to have it so rushed and convoluted in the end, it just was a thorough disappointment. And it's sad to say that. But that was the instigator of this video. A couple other series that I wanted to talk about were Comic Girls, which I enjoyed from straight off. I might have done a first impressions video of it. I don't recall at this point. But it was hysterically funny to me toward the latter half of the first episode, something like that. And then just every single episode was just kind of there. It was just kind of meh. There were a couple of moments toward the end of the series when the main character, Chaos-chan, starts to finally have success in her manga submissions. And she gets help from her manga dorm mates, if you will, the other main characters, all female cast, to get her work completed and submitted, and she has some success. And then the final episode is literally her crying over everything to an annoying nth degree, until she finds out that, hey, the second, submission that you did by yourself now was actually pretty good. So you're gonna maybe have a career at this. But they undermine the fact that they all had to go their separate ways. They all had to leave the dorm by post credits, reintroducing them all together again. So there was no impact, and the entire series was just kind of meh overall. They even threw in a horror mangaka character that should have been my favorite aspect of the show, but it was just annoying for some reason, at least to me. Next on the list that I want to talk about is Caligula, which was another one that had a really strong opening with all the psychological discussion and everything that went into it, and it just kind of turns into this Matrix 13th floor escapism thing, and it just, I don't know, again, it felt rushed. It felt somewhat dissatisfying in how it all rounded out in the end. You find out it's this programmer who created Muse, the sort of, I guess you could say fictional songstress or whatever. She's like an AI, and there's this whole weird syndrome that a lot of people have gone into comas, but their minds are all inside the thing, and it's a little strange. It's not ever thoroughly explained to my estimation, or maybe it's just because I was disenchanted and didn't really care, to listen to what the explanation was. But again, it started off so strong, and it had me for a time. But then toward the latter half, the last maybe 2-3 episodes, it was just starting to lose cohesion. It was becoming more focused on battle rather than discussion. And, there was one great last sort of vestige of the series, where all of the characters who were trapped inside this sort of matrixy like, you know, fictional world, if you will, where we're learning about all of them actually being completely different to what they are. They're all sort of high school students inside this you know, CG virtual reality realm. But in fact, one of them is like a single mother. One of them's 50 years old. One, you know, like, I wanted to know more about that stuff, more about the psychology of why they tried to escape the real world, what led them internally to it. And it was all about just, you know, who can beat whom the hardest, the fastest by the end. And so it was kind of a letdown for that, for me. Another couple of series that were just thorough garbage are some of these really short subject series that I think I talked about in my, you know, Spring 2018 watch list. Alice or Alice, Tachibanakan Triangle. They were just garbage. It was a thorough waste of time. Even though each episode's only like 3 minutes, they just were a thorough waste of time. Then there is Suten no Ken Regenesis, the sort of prequel to Fist of the North Star. No, and my problem isn't with the CG. It's whatever you can even remotely describe as kind of sort of closely approximating a story. It was, I didn't enjoy it at all. It was like, you know, people who got knocked up on these old 70s kung fu movies with Bruce Lee and stuff like that, and just tried to cram as much of that kind of cliche garbage into every single episode. At one point, I thought they were having Kenshiro, the main character, you know, smoke as many cigarettes as the episode number it was, because for like the first 4 episodes, you know, in the first episode, he's got 1 cigarette a couple of times. Then in the second episode, he's got 1, but then he has 2 at one point. Then in the third episode, he's got 3 at one point in, you know, his hand at the same time. And then it rounds out to, like, at one point he's got 4 that he's smoking at once in the 4th episode. I thought this was going to be like a reoccurring thing. Like, oh, he, you know, in case you didn't get the hint that he is a smoker, with all his, you know, physical prowess and strength and everything. Oh, he's not debilitated by smoking, because isn't that cool? Isn't it cool to smoke, folks? Hey, kiddies, go out and buy some cigarettes. And, you know, like, again, like there wasn't really any intrigue to the story. Half of the stuff that was going on, I didn't know what in the hell was going on. They never really got expositionary, which is a problem. You know, if you don't do it at all, that's a problem. You need to kind of have a backstory and understand where everyone is supposed to be coming from and whatever like that. People would just, you know, antagonists would just come out of the you know, woodwork, you know, blindsiding you, and suddenly, okay, that's the guy we're going to fight now, and whatever like that. Characters who were at first adversaries suddenly make amends, and it's just, it was all over the place. There's a season 2 of this coming, and I'm not watching it. Put it that way. And then to finish out this video was Maho Shoujo Site, or as I like to call it, Maho Shoujo Shite. This series was just balls to the wall garbage. And a waste of my time. There were a couple of moments that I found intriguing, but it was an even bigger hot mess than Osama Game the animation, as far as I'm concerned. Only where Osama Game, I could come on and talk about it weekly and vent my frustration and get that out. And that was something, you know, you guys found entertaining, those of you who watched those videos. Not with Magical Girl Sight. It was just the tone. There was a tone deafness to it, where it was disconcerting and it was unenjoyable, and all the way up to the bitter end. I didn't get into it. I kept watching it. I was curious to see how it was going to play out, but it never really delivered anything resounding or anything, you know, even so bad it's good. It was just bad, just plain bad, and what else can I say? You know, these are the biggest disappointments for me in the Spring 2018 season. As I say, once again, to go over the list, 3D Kanojo Real Girl, Nil Admirari no Tenbin, which is a sore one for me because I enjoyed it up until the last 2 episodes. Comic Girls, Caligula, Suten no Ken Regenesis, Alice or Alice, Tachibanakan Triangle, such like that. Maho Shoujo Shite. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what your biggest disappointments for the season have been, what your favorites of the season have been. I still probably have a video or 2 left in me that I'll talk about a couple of series in overview when they finally do end over the next week as of the time of this recording. But yeah, those are my disappointments for the Spring 2018 anime season. Let me know, as I say, whether or not you like this sort of format, me coming back and talking about stuff that I found disappointing in a given season. And I'll consider maybe doing that in the future as well. So otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this one. This video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.